see much in the way of tropical storm winds unless they're in squalls and heavy showers after the circulation passes by. Here's our projected path, and we still think it's going to keep on that southern track and head on to the west into northern Mexico. However, if you're in the southern portion of Texas, keep an eye on this one. Let's get back to Jeff in the studio.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Steve Lyons.
For the past several days, we have been tracking Tropical Storm Chantal. Now the system is getting very close to the Yucatan Peninsula. Let's bring you the latest information on this system by turning it over to our hurricane expert, Dr. Steve Lyons.
Well, thanks, and it looks like it's only a few hours away from landfall. Let's look at large-scale tropics, and then we'll zoom in on Chantal. The only thing we really have in the Atlantic other than Chantal is a little cluster of showers about 2 days away from the islands out there, associated with a tropical low. The big orange area on the left side of your screen is Chantal, and we'll zoom in on that. Here's the latest 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time, position 18.2 north, 87.8 west, 40 miles east-southeast of Chetumal, Mexico, and right now that would be about 25 miles to the east-southeast when it's moving west-northwest at 14. Winds up to 70. Aircraft reconnaissance has found a pressure of 1,001 millibars. When we look at the circulation, it's still rather diffuse, and when we put some observations on here that were taken just a few minutes ago around the land areas, you can see that out over the open waters in Grand Cayman, only 5 knots, Cancun 15. Down here near Chetumal, we have about 20 miles per hour. But in general, down here to the south, the winds are very light, 5 to 10 knots. That means about 7 to 11 miles per hour, something like that. And on the other side of the Yucatan, no wind. So most of the strong winds are very confined to the circulation center or offshore in this area where we don't have observations other than from the reconnaissance aircraft. Now, the impacts expect to be fairly low on all of these. The wind will be below any damage level, probably. Rainfall in the order of 5 to 7 inches maximum. Wave action could be 15 to 18 feet with some minor beach erosion. That's probably the biggest impact. Surge 2 to 3 feet, maybe a little bit higher. We do have tropical storm warnings on the east side of the Yucatan Peninsula down to the Belize-Guatemala border, and also tropical storm warnings on the other side of the Yucatan Peninsula with the anticipation the circulation is going to move across the peninsula tonight and still produce tropical storm winds here. Now, we think it's going to weaken significantly, and it still tends to be on the southern edge of this swath, so we think it's going to move out into the Gulf, Bay of Campeche, and head toward the Mexican coast. It could redevelop into a hurricane, but right now we think it's going to weaken before it does anything else. Out in the western Pacific, we have a typhoon of Category 1 intensity heading for Japan, so watch out there. Let's get back to Jennifer.
And we're looking at a few thunderstorms as they move across
day, and he joins us now live with the very latest. Mike, you feeling the effects of Chantal there?
Nick, not too much today. We had some showers this morning. Right now, we're left with partly cloudy skies. The only real impact we've seen so far here in Cancun on the northern coast of the Yucatan is some very dangerous surf running at about 12 to 14 feet. So as a result, they told bathers just don't go in the water. A few ventured in and they got caught and got swept out, and a couple of people we thought were going to have to be saved. The real threat tonight will be south of here from Cozumel down towards the Belize-Mexican border with heavy rains and gusty winds. That's not to say we're not going to have some rain and wind here later on tonight, but again, no serious problems. They did get the beach chairs off the beaches. We will have some rainfall, but keep in mind the Yucatan is relatively flat. No mountains like a lot of the Mexican coast where we often talk and hear about mudslides and flash flooding. That's not a concern. And also the fact that Chantal is going to be moving in and moving out and into the Gulf of Mexico on the other side into the Bay of Campeche. We don't expect an extended period of rainfall. So it's not going to be that bad. Little rain, little wind tonight here in Cancun. Worse to the south. It all moves out tomorrow. And then we can get back to our tropical paradise here on the Yucatan coast. Nick?
All right, thanks, Mike. We'll have the very latest on Chantal's coordinates and the projected path coming up in just a few minutes.
Residents near San Quin
landfall at the Yucatan Peninsula. Now, most of the winds in the center are going to be concentrated here to the south of where we see all this rainfall. On the enhanced satellite picture, you see that here in the cloud tops. They're enhanced with this orange and yellow colors. This represents where most of the rain is going to be. However, the windy conditions, the current conditions with a 70-mile-an-hour wind right in the center is going to be much toward the south of where we're going to see the biggest rain the biggest surge and also the biggest waves. But we will see rainfall amounts 4 inches and up in some cases, and waves may reach as high as 20, 25 feet. The winds in the center of the storm, 70 miles an hour, moving toward the west-northwest at about 14 miles an hour. There are tropical storm watches in effect and warnings on both sides now of the Yucatan Peninsula. It's expected to continue to push across this area and forecast to hit Mexico sometime in the next few days. However, if you're here in Texas, you need to keep a close eye on Chantal. Moving toward the northeast, we've had some...
Let's show you the latest from the Hurricane Center. As of 10 a.m. Central Daylight Time, 18.5 north, 89.1 west. That puts the center of circulation about 50 miles to the west of Chetumal, Mexico. It's over land, so it has weakened some, and winds are now 50 miles an hour sustained near the center. Movement starting to pick up a little bit to the west-northwest at 6 miles per hour. As we take a look back through the history of Chantal, let's see what happened with this system. And first thing that we noticed was a disturbance coming off the coast of Africa. And during the week of August the 15th, became a depression. On the 16th, it strengthened to a tropical storm. And as it moves its way through the islands, no signs of any tropical storm conditions, so it was downgraded. But once it moved into the Caribbean, it did regain strength. And now it has moved inland near Chetumal, Mexico. And of course, with the system moving in, it has disrupted the vacations of many folks here. And we've had 2,500 people head to shelters, evacuate because of a storm surge of 2 to 3 feet and the potential for 15 to 20 inches of rain. 2 fishermen are missing as they ventured out into the storm. From here, it is forecast to move west. It should move over the waters of the Bay of Campeche, and there is the potential that this could strengthen just a little bit more and possibly approach a hurricane status, again, possibly, as it heads its way towards the coast of Mexico between Tampico and Veracruz. But now, very heavy rain coming into the Yucatan as our system pushes slowly towards the west. That's the latest on Chantal. Now here's a look at the northeast with Bob.
New York City and Philadelphia are looking good.
Good morning. Flood advisories continue at this point for parts of Ohio, Wisconsin, and Michigan after some spots have picked up nearly 4 inches of rain. We'll have an update on the flooding and also an update on the prospects for severe weather coming up in just a few moments. But first of all, let's check out the tropics. Here's the latest information that we have regarding Tropical Depression Chantal. It has weakened considerably, and right now what's left of Chantal is just barely over the land areas right now. It's located roughly across the western fringes of the Yucatan Peninsula, and right now it is still packing winds of about 30 miles per hour, but it's a very weak system, a very poorly defined tropical system, and we do expect that as it continues to move to the west-northwest, that will maintain it over land, so it will more than likely dissipate over land a little bit later on for today. However, if it deviates somewhat from that course, there is a slight chance that it may reemerge back over the open waters, but probably a more than likely scenario is that it will continue to move to the west-southwest, and with that gradually dissipate over land a little bit later on for today. Something else of note, though, is that until the system totally does dissipate, there is still the possibility of perhaps some locally heavy rains for parts of Central America and parts of Mexico. And we're still seeing some areas of convection with some showers and storms out there. So until it's totally over and done with, there is the possibility of maybe 3 to 5 inches of additional rainfall for parts of Mexico and Central America until Chantal finally does dissipate. Now, from another satellite perspective, we are seeing, again, still some unsettled conditions for parts of Mexico, but probably an area of greater concern for the tropics is what's happening in the eastern Caribbean. We have a tropical wave located across the Lesser Antilles this morning, and with this tropical wave, there appears to be some type of circulation. So we're going to be watching this area very closely as it continues to approach Puerto Rico. Again, there is the possibility for further developments across the eastern Caribbean.